So before I hit my first 10K month with my online business, I was working probably 12, 13, some days even 14-hour days consistently. And actually the month that I hit my first 10K, it was the least I worked in the last 6 months. And I was kind of plateaued at around 1 to like 3, 4, 5K a month during that period. And kind of a switch just flipped to me, which kind of made me realize the inverse effect that working actually has, or working less actually has. So let me just explain to you what I noticed and what I found. So basically, I used to be under the impression, and you just see in today's society, so many people are glamorizing working these 12, 16-hour days. Whoever works the most is the best, the alpha male, who's going to carry the boats, right? David Goggins, all these sort of guys. Now, I think it's awesome to an extent, like this hustle culture. But the thing is, up until a certain extent, I think it has diminishing returns. And I learned this the hard way because although I was working, I was still making like relatively good money for my age. Like I'm 19, I was doing what, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 grand a month. Like it's relatively good money, but like for the amount of time I was putting in, I was actually getting extremely burnt out, which is something not many people actually talk about just because it's not something sexy. It's not like, oh, I made 10K a month, right? But it is so true. And that feeling of getting burnt out, it's one of the worst things because it's like you feel like you need to be working because that's the reason you got burnt out. I feel like if you're not working, you're behind, like you're falling behind to all these other people. And it just feels like the whole world's coming down on you because you put all of your self-worth and identity in this business, and all of a sudden you don't feel fulfilled from it, or you feel like, oh, am I making the right decision? I just feel so burnt out, and you stop enjoying the work. So that was kind of the biggest shift for me. I started feeling burnt out when on the outside things looked like they would be going relatively good. Like, oh, he's making decent money for his age. It looks like he's running a good business, stuff like that. But on the inside, it's like, oh, I feel burned out. I don't enjoy this anymore. It's tough for me to stay disciplined and like keep this work up, although I just kept doing it. And as I kept doing that, I started like scrolling more on social media and stuff like that, kind of fall into the trap of doing that because it was kind of like I needed to find crutches and stuff, almost, like obviously metaphorically. So basically, when you start scrolling on social media, you see all these other people and it just makes you feel worse and worse about yourself. That's one thing I've realized. You're never gonna, after scrolling on Instagram or something, or TikTok, even though I don't even have TikTok anymore, after you scroll, you're never gonna feel better about yourself than when you did before. So right now, a change I made is, number one, I'm never going to scroll on social media, especially like short form content, like reels and stuff, just because that stuff, you never feel better again about yourself than how you felt before, which is one of the things that I realized. Now, getting onto the topic of the video on how I actually worked less and made more money was because basically as I was getting burnt out, I was like, okay, something needs to change. I can't consistently do this. So I basically had to change something. So what I started doing is not setting an alarm for 5:30 a.m., actually just sleeping in, getting more sleep. I started doing more stuff I enjoyed, getting outside, getting in nature, kind of like I'm doing right now. Like it's the middle of the day for me right now, but I'm just getting outside, getting some sun. I started reading books, and I actually started working the least that I've ever worked. So I'm talking, let me just adjust this camera, my arm is getting tired. I started working the least I've ever worked. I'm talking maybe 8 or 9 hour days, which some of you is like, hey, that's still a full-time shift. But as for like entrepreneurs, like especially if you're in like the grind culture, whatever you want to call it, it's like, it's a big shift, especially for working 12-hour days. And I realized once I started actually working less, all of a sudden I saw this inverse effect where I started just making more money, and I started enjoying it more. I felt I could actually go and like work and I would enjoy it and I'd be more productive than I ever was. And it's crazy how it works, but sometimes by doing less, you're actually doing more. What I also started doing is just taking Sundays fully off, or as much as possible. Now, part of that is also because I am a Christian and glorifying God with a Sabbath. God took a day to rest, so we should do the same. It's taking a day to reset, and it's a sign that you trust God because you're leaving your will fully up to Him. He's in control. You're giving God that day. For me, it's a Sunday, right? So I stopped working on Sundays, and just started like doing more stuff I enjoyed. And I realized that I started again making more money, but most importantly, I was more fulfilled and more happy. And right now, it's the most amount of money I've ever been making. And like last month, I did around 25K with my SMA, social media marketing agency, and it's like the most I've enjoyed the work, which is crazy. But it's like that's the life that we all want. It doesn't matter how much money you make if you're not fulfilled at the end of the day. But again, I want to say as well, the fulfillment doesn't ever come from the money. When I made my first 10K month, I didn't feel any more fulfilled than I did the day before or a couple months before. Yeah, it was awesome because I could say, oh, I made 10K a month, but really nothing changes. That's the thing that most people don't realize, most people don't want to admit, right? So that's really the first thing. The second thing, kind of on working less, is like I still probably did the same amount of like actions that move the business forward, but that's the thing. So many people focus on these actions. They're quote unquote working. They're making a website, doing all this stuff, like watching videos, which isn't actually working. Working is moving the business forward, focusing on the actions that are actually moving the business forward. So if you're just sitting in front of your computer, watching videos, designing like a website, a new logo or something like that, like that's not like working. Yeah, I mean, you're technically working, but by working, I mean you're doing an action that's actually moving the business forward. Or if you're not moving the business forward, I don't think that's work. So what actions move the business forward? Something that helped me was I actually started planning each day ahead, where I want to write the 3 to 4 tasks that I want to do every single day. And these are going to be the highest leverage things that no matter what I do in the day, if I finish these, if I get these done, then I know I had a productive day. Even if it takes me 4 hours, if I get these done, I move the business forward more in those 4 hours than I ever would have working a 16-hour day doing just random stuff that doesn't actually have any effect on the business. So I started planning out my days and those things for you guys to give you an idea. For like a social media marketing agency, it's always going to be outreach, sales calls, and service delivery. Those are the 3 things you need to focus on, primarily outreach. The more people you reach out to, the more meetings you book, the more you're going to grow your agency, the more you're going to grow your business. It's the same thing with pretty much every business. The simplest way to do it is you break it down what the business is at its core, right? So SMMA, you need to book appointments, you need to close appointments, you need to get clients. If you're not doing one of those 3 things if you're not doing one of those 3 things, you're not moving the business forward because those are the highest leverage tasks you can do. And just focusing on the 80-20, on these high leverage tasks, have such a huge effect on the business because number one, you're able to get more done in a shorter period of time, but 2, you have way more leverage. It's way more effective for the time you're actually putting in, which means you can go and do stuff you actually enjoy in the other time that you would have quote unquote been working. So that's really what I realized. And again, fulfillment is huge. If you don't feel happy with what you're doing, if you feel like you're just kind of going through the motions, like you're not gonna be able to consistently do that. And I will say there are seasons in your life when you will have to go through that. Like that's just inevitable, but that's not sustainable in the long term. That's why these people working 12-hour, 14-hour days and glamorizing it, if they enjoy it, that's awesome. Right now, I do work some 12-hour days, but I absolutely love it because I changed basically my perspective on work and kind of built a business around what I love doing, right? And again, like even now, it's the middle of the day and I'm just shooting a quick video because it's beautiful outside and I had conviction to do so. But building a business that doesn't run you or you run the business, and the way you can do that is start by identifying the high leverage tasks, focusing on those. So for SMMA, it's outreach, sales, service delivery. But if you don't have clients to deliver results for, then stop focusing on service delivery. You need to focus on getting sales calls. So just go spend all your time on outreach. Spend 4 hours a day on outreach. If you do that, then you're productive. It's a good day. And again, it's not like you're working 12 hours, but 4 hours, 4 solid hours is better than 12 hours of just doing stuff that's not actually moving the business forward, right? So think about it like that. And when you see people talking about making all this money, doing all this work, don't compare yourself to them. Comparison is a thief of joy. It's so true though. Just your biggest competition is yourself, right? So stop comparing yourself to these other people. Compare yourself to the person you were yesterday, the person you are today, and always beat your past self. Think about a year down the line, are you going to look back and be happy with the amount of work you put in and the place that you're in? And if not, if you're going to look back and regret what you're doing today, then you better get to the drawing board, journal, and write down exactly what changes you need to make, because you don't know how much time we have left. We don't know how much time we have on this earth. That's all up to God. That's God's plan. All we can do is make the absolute most of every day and live up to our full potential and purpose. So that's what I'm going to wrap the video up with. kind of a different one, just kind of yapping, kind of talking. If you guys made it this far, I appreciate you. I'm not sure how many of you guys made it this far, but if you have any questions on this, like I hope this helped you. If you have any questions, want any advice on SMMA, like business, anything in general, just go DM me on Instagram at noah.helped. Otherwise, comment it below. But I really do appreciate you watching again. It's a beautiful day, but now is the time. Now is your time to go change your life, to change your bloodline. So go get to it and go crush it. And I will see you soon. Peace.